Welcome to a concise tour of David Card's Nobel-winning contributions to labor economics, focusing on natural experiments and credible causal inference. Over the next slides, we will explore how real-world shocks and policy changes can be used, like randomized trials to answer questions about wages, employment, immigration, and education, and why these findings matter for policy decisions. Natural experiments leverage unexpected policy changes or random events to approximate randomized trials and isolate causal effects from observational data. By comparing treated and control groups and observing outcomes, researchers can draw more credible conclusions about policy impacts, such as labor market responses, while avoiding lab settings and relying on carefully constructed empirical designs. Before Card's work, the conventional view assumed higher minimum wages inevitably reduce employment based on simple models. Card challenged that consensus by designing empirical comparisons across regions with different policies, using real-world data to test causal links, and demonstrate that assumptions about wage-employment trade-offs need careful empirical scrutiny rather than blind theoretical application. In the famous Card and Kruger study, researchers compared fast food employment in New Jersey after a minimum wage hike to neighboring Pennsylvania, where wages stayed the same. They collected before and after data to run a difference in differences analysis and found no significant decline in employment, prompting a theoretical rethink about the expected negative effects of modest wage increases. Firms adjust to minimum wage increases through several mechanisms: passing cost to prices, investing in productivity, enhancing technology or organization, and reducing turnover, which lowers hiring and training costs. These adjustments help explain why moderate wage hikes may have limited negative employment effects and suggest policymakers can raise wages with less fear of mass job losses when considering broader firm responses. Card's Mariel Boatlift study used Miami as the treatment group when the 1,980 influx raised the local labor supply, and compared it to similar cities without a sudden immigrant arrival. Using a difference in differences approach, he examined wages and unemployment trends around the 1,980 intervention point to measure the labor market impact of that large migration shock. The Mariel evidence showed surprising resilience. Among low-skilled natives, there was no significant wage decline or rise in unemployment. Local adjustments such as occupational shifts, increased demand for services, and migrants filling complementary roles helped absorb the supply shock, highlighting how labor markets can adapt structurally rather than suffer simple, uniform harms. Card's research on school quality exploited variation in school resources to estimate long-term returns, showing that students from better-resourced schools tend to earn more later in life. These findings challenge skepticism about the payoff from educational spending, providing empirical evidence that targeted resource improvements can produce meaningful economic gains for students. Public investment in education follows a clear pathway. Focused spending on smaller classes and qualified teachers yields targeted resources for disadvantaged students, which then translates into measurable labor market gains. Over time, this approach can reduce inequality and boost long-run growth, making the case that strategic educational investment supports both equity and economic performance. Difference in differences is a core tool Card popularized for causal inference with non-experimental data. It compares changes over time between a treated group and an unchanged control group. By isolating differential trends, the method helps attribute observed changes to an intervention while accounting for baseline differences and common shocks affecting both groups. Beyond individual studies, Card transformed research norms by emphasizing transparent research design and careful handling of selection bias, setting new standards for empirical economics. His approach inspired extensive replications and extensions worldwide, and refined understanding of wage setting, migration effects, and human capital, shaping how researchers and policymakers interpret observational evidence. Taken together, Card's body of work offers 3 practical lessons for policy. Moderate minimum wage increases need not slash jobs. Immigration can expand employment opportunities without harming native wages broadly. And investing in school quality yields tangible, long-term economic returns, all supporting more evidence-based, equitable economic decisions.